It's Xavier down the bottom of the garden, and we all know the silver birch. I've been holding off on this until I'm really sure what I wanted to do, and now having seen Tony's video on power tools and really how to do that delicate work on your woodwork, I reckon I'm ready to go. So what I'm going to do is did anyone find that funny? No, seriously, my muscles aren't strong enough to hold the power tool, and to be fair, the work I want to do is just a little cut down here, so that I can expose the base of what's in there. I'm not going to put my finger in there because there's probably a spider there, and do that. And I'll be using this device on my rotary tool, and I've never used it before. So when we've never used something before, in all seriousness, I always recommend having a bit of a play first. So I'm going to find something that, you know, that really I don't need, like my left finger. No, seriously. I'm going to find something a little bit more suitable that I'm not that bothered about. Say this. Haven't decided what to do with it, but it's got some nice bits of wood that I can carve and just see how these tools work. So before I go to that, which is very valuable and important to me, I'm going to have a little play with that and see what the tools do to it. So I'll get set up and come back to you in a minute. When I was about 10 years old, my dad gave me a little kids woodworking set with all sorts of tools in it. Never ever used it until I noticed today that it's actually got these woodworking hand chisels with different edges. So with all these tools, the professionals use them. I thought I might have a go and see. I might well need that to sort of scrape edges or something like that. But I know, I'm sure Candice from Bonsai Science, I'm sure she does stuff like that. I do hope I haven't mucked your name up then. I'm terrible for that. Anyway, so I've got things like that, and I've got another thingamajiggy, and I've got all of these little thingamajiggies and round thingamajiggies and whatever. I don't think I'm going to use them all. I think I'll probably find one tool and then I'll stick to it throughout. It'll probably be that tool because it saves me having to get it off again. Anyway, I'll come back to you in a minute when we're going to have a little play with that other tree. If you haven't got an old tree, then I was ready to go with just a stump there. Just keep it firmly wedged between my legs, so to say. And then I was just going to have a little play. It already digs quite a thing, but the key is what you're trying to find out is what's the kickback like. Before you start going near your expensive tools, you want to know how it's going to react when it touches hardwood, softwood. So anyway, be back in a minute when I'm ready to do that. Cheers. Okay, so this viney thing, all the living tissues down here, so everything up here is rough as rats. So I've got this size one. I can change the speed. So again, without being noddy about it, start at a slow speed and see what it does. Okay, well that's done a reasonable indentation. See what the faster speed's like. I like that. Definitely nice two-handed grip, like your lightsaber. You don't want to be on the dark side, which is why you want to make sure your tree's firmly supported. Probably not good to be on a turntable. I'll get rid of that. Okay, so let's go higher and see what happens. Should we take it all the way up? We'll take it up to, hang on, what is the highest? So we've got 6. Okay, 6 is the highest. So I've created a good 2 or 3 millimeter groove there. I had quite a bit of control on it. It's quite smooth. Alright, happy with what that thing does. So while that's cooling, see my little woodworking tool, what I can do with that. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be my choice, but I may well want that at some point. Okay, let's try something else. Okay, so it's just a bigger, chunkier version of that. I know what it does on the ends. Okay, so lots of interesting, but I noticed there is definitely a tendency for it to roll, which obviously with the rotation it would do. So if you start moving your fingers up near, there is a chance you get a kick or some sort of jump on it. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I just want to try a little cutting tool, so we'll go to that next. Okay, smaller and much healthier looking silver birch. You can see from here that you've got, I still think got living trunk there going up and around, so I just want to see what I can do in here. Notice straight away it's a lot harder wood, so that's on 2. I might have to go faster on it. So it's certainly not a quick process with that, and it may be with a different tool, but the idea is obviously it's quite hard wood in there. Is to just try and make it naturally false. Now obviously I've got that branch here which is very important. I think the issue I've got here is how high up there it's dead, so okay, so that's creating some interesting textures. Okay, now what I want to see is whether this is dead there or not, because different texture, lovely cracking on the trunk, but I just want to see if underneath that it's dead, in which case I can drill down further. Yeah, that's looking pretty dead down there. So the reality is I can keep taking that down. Every now and then just check, making sure that's still tight. I've noticed there's a tendency on these for them to loosen off. So you want to make sure that's alright, but don't touch it because it'll be hot by now. Anyway, I'm going to have a little bit more of a play with that. Watching and listening to me carve like that may not be the best. And I also want to see another tool and see if it works better. Okay, so the next tool is it's like the little saw blades, rotating saw, and you use that normally on to create the cracking of the branch. So when the branch actually splits open, gives you that interesting graduated, and then if you get a little bit of sanding in there, it just creates. It's like when all the ribs or the moisture's come out, it splits open. It's got full power, does. Very interesting tool. And that linear effect, as I say, if it's on a long and old branch or that's died off branch, and then you can sand along it, and it creates smooth ridges. I've got an example on, I'll go and get that to show you exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I'm interested to see what that would do, and whether I can actually use it to cut down, which is what I might try. So I'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, so this is practically my first ever juniper. As usual, like all things, had to go big. Anyway, so this is what we're talking about here. And you can see, all along here are lines that have been cut with that instrument, and I've literally scored along, and it just looks like a branch splitting open, and in nature, if you look, that's exactly what does tend to happen. Obviously it's been a long time since I've treated or done anything with this, and I must ask, having looked at Candice's video on her recent show Juniper that she's been working on, brilliant, and it really got me thinking. But I need to actually discover where the live vein actually is on this thing before I even decide what I'm doing with it. But yeah, so you get those sort of effects, which are more and more of the weathered. I've actually got to clean this up and bleach it more. All this, all these gins or with that horizontal blade. I mean, some of them don't look so so natural. The woodworking tool, running along those scored lines, whether it just gives you an opportunity I suppose it's the speed you're doing things at. I mean, at the moment, truthfully, I have no idea, and until you know what it looks like in nature, you could just end up creating an absolute mess. Okay, let's go back to the real tree. Obviously the key thing is we've got two living veins here, or veins, two branches coming from there, so that's all living up here. Most of this isn't, but I want to do some quite interesting stuff with it. Okay, what I've got now is a much finer one. Let's see how this works. So I want to get in deep down there and at least score away that bark. Slower going, but it definitely creates interesting patterns, interesting texture patterns. It also allows you to actually go in and create deeper fissures, and as though water runs down different parts. Quite impressive actually. And again, what you need to be very, very aware of is the heat that's generated around there is such that it can actually, well, it will harm the living tissue beneath. So you do also have to be careful of that. Okay, I like that tool, definitely for up around here. Okay, I have to be a little bit careful. I just took a little bit off there, so I'll put some stuff on that and clean that up. Go for the cutting blade. I want to try something. I'm just going to give a final over with this to just take out some of those obvious cut marks. What I'm trying to do is break up the straight lines a little bit. I'm not doing any more on that for now. I'm going to brush that all out, and then I might try some little bit of this stuff on it. Probably need to sand it first, but hey, let's have a look. So I've just finished brushing off all of the stuff there. I mean, I think it's a lot different. Let's get to the lime sulfur. Far too much there. Okay. By the way, this would have been a good idea when I was doing all that, all the drilling with it. What I'm trying to create with all those fissures, some of them are straighter than others, is as if water has found its own little course down there. It's more like the Rocky Mountains than anywhere else, but it's experimenting, to be honest. To say, you can tell by how long it took and the tools I use that I probably don't do that this often. In fact, this is probably the first real effort I've made at doing this. So all I'll say to you is, in your comments, if this is something that you're actually quite good at, a lot of constructive criticism or constructive advice, more than happy. But you know, this, as I say, apart from that one I showed you, the big one I showed you, this is probably the second time I've ever I've ever even used the power tools to try and create a non-natural sort of natural effect. I mean, I love the different graduations and the colours of that. I don't know how on earth that would happen, and I suspect it probably doesn't happen, but you know, when you sit there and you think, looking at it, I mean, as I say, I'm sure an expert in this will look and say, oh, that's not natural, that could never happen. But I'd much rather be just looking at it and just, you know, when you see something, you think, wow, doesn't that look incredible? I won't be going, no, doesn't that look incredibly false? And truthfully, you know, this is where you go. People who perhaps don't know as much about bonsai, I mean, I'm not selling this or anything, will look at this and go, will say, oh, that's really impressive. Okay, you know, I'm impressed with the different graduations of colour and the, see, like deep fissures in here that I was able to create with the different tools. And compare, and well, you've seen what it was originally like. You know, it at least doesn't look like that horrible stump. And again, the good thing about anything like this is that as you get better at stuff, more confident of what you're trying to achieve, and more confident the tree isn't going to die on you because you've done all this, you can come back, and that's it. I mean, I can literally come back and improve or rectify what it is that hasn't quite worked out right. But I'm, you know, in the same vein that Tony quite rightly shows excitement when he tries something and it works. You know, I'm sure that these sort of trees don't have this sort of deadwood on them. I'm sure of it. I can't point to a picture. And again with this, because it is a deciduous and they do rot, again, this is just the sort of thing that the super glue, if you find that it's actually starting to rot through, pour super glue all over it, will harden it off nicely, especially if you've got these intricate things at the top. I'm more than likely going to put super glue up there. I've got loads of other sulfur stuff to do. I've got to go back and do that larch as well. Okay, just got to clean that up. Okay, so we're about to go on back to the original one I was going to do, which was the hollow. And by the way I'm talking and things you've heard, you've probably worked out that I did this in 2 different orders. I actually did the hollow before this, and then I realised I've got all those power tools out. I might just well actually finish the job off. Wow, I mean, this one's looking better than the big one. Obviously the big one's been through the walls a bit recently, but that's at least a feature, even if it's not necessarily the most natural feature. But oh man, I love those colours and all the fissures. And you know, I say the experts might say, oh, that's terrible, but that's literally the second time I've ever tried to do any sort of carving, and it's the first time I've done something with a stump. And I don't know, a lot of people have said, well, why didn't you just cut the whole top bit off? And originally that's what I was going to do, but the main reason I didn't is because it is such an ugly junction coming out here. If I'd removed that main stump, you were going to have these 2 great lumps there with very little here to hide it. So it could have gone lower, and it may still come lower, but actually now what I want to do is your eye's drawn to that. It's a lovely, lovely feature, and then as this gets stronger, I can see the whole thing doing really well. So, you know, let me know what you think of my second ever attempt at carving. To say the first one was that Juniper, and that was years ago. Really love it. Really, really love it. I'm going to say something else. Don't be afraid. You saw the tools I've got. Practice. You saw right at the beginning how I did the practice stuff to make sure I was confident, happy with the tool, and I knew how it was going to feel in my hand. and then just slowly, you know, either start at a tree that you're less worried about, or in the end, if you're happy, go for it. So anyway, back to the big silver birch, which I fear is may well end up having to grow a new branch and a new crown, but at least there's a lot of life still there. Cheers.